Everybody needs good neighbors with a little understanding. You can find the perfect blend. Neighbors should be there for one another. That's when good neighbors become good friends.
What did you do?
Nothing.
Then what are we running away for?
I came around the corner and Mrs. Brown was lying there in a heap. I tried to pick her up and she started screaming blue murder.
Well, if you didn't do anything, what are we running away for?
Because I freaked out, okay?
Terrific.
Yeah, I know.
You know what this is going to look like, don't you?
Well, why did you run?
Because I'm your mate.
Struth, what a mess.
Yes?
Mrs. Ramsey, do
Yes.
you mind if we come in for a minute?
Oh, of course not. What can I do for you?
You have a son called Daniel?
What's happened to him?
Oh, we'd like a word with him. Would he be at home?
No. Max! Max! He went out after school.
Trouble?
It's Denny.
Oh, what? Sergeant Hawkins, isn't it? Remember we met at that football day?
Of course, Mr. Ramsey.
Yeah. Well, what's Danny been up to then, eh?
Well, there's been a bit of trouble at the local shopping centre, and we have reason to believe that Danny may be involved.
Yep.
What's that about?
I know. Probably overdue parking fines or something. When I see Max come out in handcuffs, I'll start worrying.
I'd like to talk to you about Lucy.
What's wrong with her?
And that's just it, she won't tell me.
Well, how am I?
She's in her room now, why don't you talk to her?
Look, if she won't talk to you, she won't talk to me, now will she?
She tried last night and you gave her the brush off.
All right. Max. What's wrong?
You better go inside, Jim. Danny and Scott are in trouble.
You reckon they'll be looking for us?
I don't know. Maybe.
We can't stay here.
We've got to think.
Are you sure she recognised you?
I don't know.
Why don't we just go back and explain what happened?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Well, tell the truth. What else can we do?
My word against hers? No problem.
Somebody must have seen what happened.
The street was empty.
Are you sure of that?
No, I'm not sure of anything. All I know is I've been set up.
Well, maybe we're not in trouble at all. Mrs. Brown probably realised she was in the wrong. Maybe we've got nothing to worry about.
Maybe. Use your brains. That woman hates my guts. Look how she got me into trouble with Mum and Dad. Said I was bullying her kids. Even if she figured she was wrong, she wouldn't say so.
Well, somebody must have seen what happened.
Suppose you did.
I didn't see anything.
But suppose you said you did.
I can't do that.
Look, Scotty, it'd work. Think about it. You come around the corner and you see the whole thing happen from there.
You're only making things worse.
You think I did it, don't you?
Of course I don't.
Well... forget it.
Hold on. All right, I'll do it.
Now listen, I think you're taking a fair bit for granted, Sergeant. I mean, this Mrs. Brown's a bit of a troublemaker in the street, you know. I mean, she's had it in for Danny for ages before this.
We're not relying entirely on her statement, Mr. Ramsey. Have you got those names handy, Constable?
3 people saw them running away from the scene. One of them was the manager of the electrical store. He says he knows both boys.
Now listen, Danny wouldn't do nothing like this.
Scott's never been in trouble before. It's impossible.
Mrs. Daniels, I do a fair bit of work with the kids in this area. Things like this are very rarely premeditated. They're usually done on the spur of the moment.
Listen, you sound like you made up your mind they're guilty.
That is not up to me, Mr. Ramsey, and I can't decide anything until I've had a word with them. Would you have any idea where they might be, Mr. Robinson?
You better go look for them.
Yeah, right. Where the hell are you been?
Out.
Listen, I want to
Now,
stay
hang on, Mr. Ramsey. I'm Sergeant Hawkins. This is Constable Bright. Were either of you two boys near the shopping centre this afternoon?
Yeah, we were checking out second-hand speakers.
Well, I'll have to ask both of you to come down to the station with your parents. You'll both be required to be present while we question the boys.
Now, hang on. Can't we sort this out here?
This is not a juvenile misdemeanour, Mr. Ramsey. This is robbery with assault. Now, I suggest you start taking it seriously.
Full name?
Scott James Robinson,
Address?
26 Ramsey Street.
And when Danny comes out, Scott isn't to say anything to him, Mr. Robinson. No communication prior to questioning. Do you understand that, Scott?
Yeah.
One thing puzzles me, son. If you didn't do it as you say, then why did you run?
I freaked out. She started screaming. Look, I never did it. You can ask Scott.
Where did you get this money?
For my speakers. Well, I've been saving up for it. I worked last night loading shelves at the supermarket. You can ask them.
I will. But there's a lot more money than that in here.
I've been saving up for a long time. Haven't I, Dad?
That's true. At least 6 months.
How much money had Danny saved, Mr. Ramsey?
Well, look, I don't know the exact sum.
Thank you. Mrs. Brown claims that her purse was taken with $60 housekeeping money in it.
I don't care what she says. I never took it.
All right, Danny. Let's start again.
Now, look, you've been questioning him for half an hour. How much more can he tell you?
Is this a formal objection?
No, I didn't mean it like that.
Well, I don't tell you how to fix taps, Mr. Ramsey, so don't you tell me how to do my job. I am giving Danny every opportunity to answer this charge.
Now, look, he's telling the truth. I know my own son.
Do you now? How's Gary Reynolds, Danny?
I wouldn't know.
How about Dino Trevelli? They're two local lads who have been giving us quite a bit of trouble lately, Mr. Ramsey. Shoplifting, joyriding, vandalism, that sort of thing. They're also mates at Danny's. But then you'd know that, seeing you know your son as well as you say. All right, Danny. Let's go right from the top. That's Danny's statement. Go over it with him and Mr. Ramsey and get particulars. Mr. Robinson, you can bring Scott through now.
Danny asked me to check out the prices in the electrical store. He was going to have a look in the second-hand shop in the next street.
How long were you in the electrical store?
I didn't go in. As soon as Danny left, I went after him. I wanted to ask him something.
Ah, yes. And what happened?
I went round the corner.
What did you see?
Mrs. Brown was lying on the ground down the side street. And Danny was walking towards her. He tried to help her up, and she started screaming. Then Danny bolted. That's the way it happened, Dad, honest.
Are you sure that Danny was walking towards Mrs. Brown?
Yeah, positive.
When Danny ran, did he say anything to you? Did he yell?
No, nothing.
So why did you run? You'd seen it all. You knew Danny hadn't done anything wrong, so why?
We just panicked, I guess. Look, I've tried to help people before and they've just taken it the wrong way. She was yelling.
You sure you don't want to change anything you've said to me?
No.
The boys will be charged and then fingerprinted, Mr. Robinson. Then they'll be released under yours and Mr. Ramsey's cognizance. And the case will be heard by a magistrate in the near future.
Danny didn't do it. Scott told you.
I'm not calling Scott a liar, Mr. Robinson. But it's just that I cannot take his story for granted. If he's telling the truth, then he was with Danny when this happened. It boils down to a case of the boy's word against Mrs. Brown's. Well, that can't be decided here. That is up to a magistrate. I'm sorry.
What happened? Is it all sorted out?
They've both been charged.
Oh, my God.
Well, it's not fair. They can't charge you for something you didn't do.
It's done. All we can hope is that Carol Brown changes her statement.
But why would she accuse the boys like that? And after we helped her the other night?
Oh, I don't know. I can't understand it either. This is the last thing I needed, thank you very much.
Well, it isn't my fault.
All I'm saying is you wouldn't be in this trouble if you didn't hang around with Danny Ramsey.
But Danny didn't do it.
That boy attracts trouble like a magnet. It's a pity this family has to pay for it. All right, I know. Picked the wrong time to say it.
Sometimes I think I don't know you at all.
But if the boys have been charged...
Well, look, love, the police had no option, did they? Once Mrs. Brown stuck to her guns. Well, not to worry, love.
I'm glad you're so optimistic. I'll worry if it's all the same to you.
Well, look, for a start, it'll never get to court if Mrs. Brown retracts her statement. I'll go and have a word with her now. And second, Scott backed up Danny's version of the story, so we're on good, solid ground there. And anyway, if it ever does get to court, Mrs. Brown's got more than one weak spot, hasn't she?
I don't think you should go and see her.
I know what I'm doing, love.
Dad, thanks for backing me.
Better get to bed, son. Got school in the morning.
Right.
No, darling.
Night, Mum. Night, Dad.
Right, Shane.
No. I owe you an apology, Max.
Hmm?
I didn't expect you to handle it like this.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to let some drunk drag this family through the mud.
How was it? Rough. Do you reckon Mrs. Brown dobbed you in deliberately? I wouldn't put it past her. Although she was pretty freaked when I tried to pick her up. Maybe she did just make an honest mistake. Who knows?
Yeah, well, it looks like Dad's going to be putting up a fight.
That really knocked me out. He stuck up for me. Didn't let the cops get away with a thing. Even when Hawkins tried to tie me in with some of the local hoons. Couldn't believe it.
How long have I been trying to tell you that Dad's on your side?
After tonight, I reckon you could be right.
This may sound crazy, but... well, maybe it took something like this to put you two back on the right track.
Looks like I've been wrong about Dad. But I tell you, Shane, I'll make it up to him.
Mrs. Brown, sorry to bother you at this hour. I thought we ought to have a talk.
I've got nothing to say to you.
Well, I think you have, because I'm talking about suing you.
What?
I'm not saying you told the police lies. Anyone can make a mistake. I'm just saying you ought to think twice before you go on accusing my son of something he never done.
How dare you accuse me of lying?
I just said you're mistaken, that's all.
Look, you think you can come round here trying to bully me? I'm on sedatives because of your son. I hope he goes
Mrs.
to
Brown!
jail. Get up!
What did you mean before about these local guys?
Gary Reynolds and Dino Trevally. I was with them one night at the Penny Parlour when the cops came in and hassled them.
What are you kicking around with clowns like that for?
They're okay. I was just with them, Shane. I never did anything wrong.
That doesn't count. Look, if you hang out with jerks like that, the cops can bring it up in court. Now, that can make a big difference with the magistrate.
I'm sorry, Dad. I was just about to go to bed.
That's all right. I'm glad you're still awake. Listen, new rules, Danny. I'll be taking you to school in the morning, and Shane will meet up with you in the afternoon. Apart from that, you're not to go outside this house.
Oh, Dad!
Yeah, look, I know it's unfair, but it's practical. Till this thing's sorted out, you and Scott are marked men. Anything goes wrong in the neighbourhood, they'll try to pin it on you. This is for your own protection.
Sure, Dad. Fair enough.
All right, now get some sleep. Shane?
Night, mate.
You must realise, Mrs. Brown, that Mr. Ramsey is very upset. He believes that his son is innocent.
And you're on his side.
I'm not on anyone's side, Mrs. Brown.
Look, he was talking about suing me. If that isn't a threat, I don't know what is.
I promise you, you will not be bothered in the future.
Thank you.
Oh, one other thing. We know you've had a dreadful experience. We can all appreciate that. But is it at all possible that you may have made a mistake about the identity of the boy who attacked you?
No. No mistake.
Very well. We'll go and have a word with Mr. Ramsey.
all right. So I done the wrong thing.
The wrong thing's putting it mildly.
Well, look, I didn't mean it like that. I meant, look, we all live in the same street, don't we? I thought it could be settled out privately.
By making threats.
You know, I just laid the situation on the line.
I'll give you a fair warning, Mr. Ramsey. I'll have to report this, and you can bet her lawyer will bring it up in court. Now, stay away from Mrs. Brown unless you want to make your son's position any worse than it already is.
All right, don't say it.
If she'd change her mind, it'd be over and we'd be celebrating.
Yeah, well, it didn't work. I haven't finished yet, but... You know, we need a good lawyer. Look, go and get Danny for me, will you?
Yes. Max,
Hmm?
the way you're fighting for Danny, so calm. Thank you.
And just thank me when we win, love. Hello, Jim.
G'day, mate. I saw the police. Everything all right?
No, not to worry, mate. Listen, I've been thinking, we need a good solicitor. It'll cost, but we use the same bloke for both boys, we'll save, right?
Makes sense.
I reckon we're home and hosed, you know.
Oh, yeah. What makes you so confident?
Yeah, well, look, you, me, Ellen and Paul, we all found her lying dead drunk. See how smart she sounds in court when that's brought up?
Ooh, pretty ugly thing to do, mate.
Yeah, but it's either that or kids share an institution.
Yeah, well, I suppose you're right. All right, see you later.
Okay, mate. Good night. Danny! Get a wriggle on! Where are you off to?
Coaching clinic in town.
Oh, yeah? What can they teach you I didn't?
Nothing. Except this one's about handling toddlers. Catch you later, Dad. Hang in there, Danny.
Right.
Right, remember what I told you last night? I'm taking you to school, Danny.
Yes, Dad. No worries.
No worries?
Thanks for backing me.
Now, look, I'm laying out money for a good lawyer. You do what he tells you and we'll get out of this, right?
Well, I can't say anything except I didn't do it.
Good, will you tell him that?
Well, you tell him. You believe me.
Okay, now that's enough.
You do believe me, don't you?
Listen, I'm just doing this so your mother doesn't get a broken heart. You want the truth? I'm expecting something like this to happen. Now get a move on.
I'm not feeling very together this morning.
You agree with what we've organised about the solicitors representing both of you?
Yeah, sure. Just as long as the police don't come around again.
You don't look too well. How did you sleep?
Not well.
Oh, we just got to get through this, mate.
I kept dreaming about it like a movie. Walking around the corner, seeing Danny crouched beside her.
What?
Oh, you know how crazy dreams are.
What do you mean you're walking around the corner and seeing Danny crouched beside her?
Nothing, Dad.
You said you were there. You saw what happened. Now you're saying you're around the corner.
No, Dad.
You didn't lie to the police.
Dad?
Did you? Did you?
Well, Danny didn't do it, Dad.
You silly little twit.
What am I supposed to do? She was trying to set him up. Danny's my mate.
You don't owe Danny anything. What you're supposed to do is tell the truth.
I did. Danny didn't do it.
How do you know that?
I believe him.
You realise I've got to tell the police this?
Why?
Because if I can shoot down this story of yours, imagine what'll happen in court.
Please, Dad. Danny won't have a chance.
Chance? You just lied to me. How many chances do you want?
Please, Dad, don't do it. Whatever I said. You know Danny. You know Danny didn't rob Mrs. Brown.
I don't know anything except that you lied to cover up for him. Police have got to be told. I'm doing you a favour.
Favour?
You lied about what you saw. Maybe the police will overlook that, let you off the hook. Mrs. Brown's statement did only mention one boy.
What about Danny?
To hell with Danny. Good morning. May I speak to Sergeant Hawkins, please?